Right.
Check the box.
That pen.
I think it's
I need black for the official.
different.
That's why I have two
Usually?
when I do the vote.
Really?
I just keep it that way.
Like we had to do, we always had to sign in blue.
So it stood out.
Well, so you know it's not a copy.
No. I've always done it black. So
Johnny Cash,
Yeah?
the bad boy of clerks. We're live.
6 p.m. We'll call this regular village board meeting to order. If you'd all please join me in a moment of silence. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, would you take the roll?
Trustee Nice.
Present.
Trustee Try.
Here.
Trustee Ferguson.
Present.
Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Gerger.
Here.
Trustee Fletcher. Village President Kimsey.
Any public announcements? Present. Any public announcements?
Oh, Les. Oh, Les is bringing a notepad now.
Yes, sir. Okay, October the 6th, the Legion is having their annual fundraising for the golf outing. Then on October the 28th, the VFW is having a kids Halloween party from 1 to 4. And then at 7 on, the adults will be having a costume contest party. Memorial brick applications for our Veterans Memorial. The cutoff date is going to be October the 5th. The VFW will be conducting their annual blanket brigade, and we'll have drop-off boxes at the VFW and a scoop du jour. And the Legion Auxiliary ladies will be collecting hats, gloves, and socks. Oh, and then the other question that I was asked to ask, when the VFW has events or the Legion has events, would we be able to park in that empty parking lot until you get it built?
Coordinate, make sure we know what's going on. It's
Okay.
the best thing.
We'll contact you and let you know.
Overnight parking.
Contact Pat.
Contact you?
No
Okay,
overnight parking.
no overnight, okay. We'll tell them to leave the tents at home then. All right. Thank you.
Any other public announcements? Any public comments on agenda topics? Hearing none, we're joined tonight by Kevin Gayden and Mike Jenin from IMEA, IMUA, IPA, EIO. So,
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Kevin Gayden. I'm the president and CEO of the Illinois Municipal Electric Agency and the Illinois Municipal Utilities Association. And we're actually working for both of them tonight. So on your slides here that we provided you, on the left-hand side is IMEA. That is your wholesale power supplier. Chatham is power supply partners with 31 other cities in the state that work together on total requirements power supply. We've been your partner for over 35 years. So we're working together with you and the other communities for a long time. I've been in the power supply business for 36 years. I've been here for 12 years as a CEO. And the other thing we're talking tonight about is the restoration you all did from the June 29th storm. I've been doing this for 36 years, and I can only think of about 3 other times in my entire career that something hit that massive that caused that much damage. I was saying earlier, I grew up in a community that got hit by 7 tornadoes in one night in central Nebraska. That was a big one. This one was not quite that big, but still pretty good sized. And I just really want to commend all of you and your staff, specifically your staff, for all the work that they did. I talked to Shane Hill a number of times during that period of time, and the thought of that guy sleeping on an air mattress in his office for several days in a row, by the time they got it all done, he was as happy as could be. All the work that he and his crews and all of you did to restore the system makes me proud to continue to live in a public power community. My entire life I've lived in a public power community. I live here in the village as well. So over those 35 years, we have been providing you with reliable and affordable and sustainable power But as you know, on June 29th, we had a hell of a time being able to get that done. So I had some people throughout including my family, said, what's going on? How come it's going to take so long? And I'm like, you don't understand the massive amount of damage that was caused. If you think about State Street over here, just to the east of the Main Street substation, that's one of your primary feeds into town. That thing looked like a war zone with all the poles and the trees and the wires and all those other things that go along with that. The amount of time that it takes just to restore that, just to start building out from that, was a massive amount of work. So we really wanted to commend all of you for the work you've done. You continue to do the work with the CDBG. May God go with you to FEMA to get as much funds as you can. With that situation, that has gotten exceedingly more difficult over time. And so we'll continue to work with you on those things. I wanted to change gears a little bit to a balance of reliability and rates. The Village of Chatham's reliability on your electric system has always been very, very high. And that has a huge amount to do with the people that are taking care of your customers live here. And so, for example, if there's a situation that the lights go off, and whether it's up on Ptarmigan or over on Mao Drive or right here south of the complex, your line crews probably know what happened. And when they get dispatched, they probably have the equipment in their truck going there that they're pretty sure what happened. And so that's why, for example, when you have an outage here, it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes by the time they get it all taken care of. For those that live in the country and those that live that are areas that are served by an investor-owned utility, those things get dispatched out of Decatur or Peoria or something like that. So your outages are measured in the sense of minutes as opposed to the sense of hours. And that's something that I think people take for granted. And it has to do with those local people caring about who they're taking care of. They also recognize that there are people that have medical conditions that may need to get something taken care of much more quickly and those type of things. You continue to build out your system with more underground. As we know, most of the damage was caused with the overhead lines. A lot of the areas that had the underground lines did not have that long of outages, but at the same time, still something to continue to work on. I also think the village should continue to be proud of the rates you charge your customers, including myself. Your power supply cost and your power supply bills to your customers have been very flat for a long time. What I can tell you is, I've got a slide here that talks about that here in a second. About a year ago, the investor-owned utility had their, if you know people that are served by Ameren, those customer bills went up 55% in one day. And they've been very volatile since that point in time because they don't have those long-term resources. IMA has invested in long-term resources to be able to assure that ongoing, regular, plannable, budgetable, scalable, long-term effects on the power supply system. And when you're depending upon somebody else to generate that power for you every day, sometimes that goes up, sometimes that goes down, and we'll see that volatility here in a second. Your costs continue to be very stable. You see the very bottom thing. Our power cost is 7% lower today than it was 10 years ago. Now, when you throw in top of that the transmission increases, those have not gone down 7% over the last 10 years, but it's averaged less than 1% per year. Our average rates have gone up less than 1% per year during that period of time. If you look to the next slide, this is a slide from the Energy Information Administration. The federal government takes care of this. It's a little bit slow. It's not always accurate, but we do know this one is accurate. And so you can see this is a chart of the residential rates of electricity in Illinois, and you can see what they've done over the last 20 years. And so you can see they've kind of go up and down in the summer and winter time, and then we saw that big spike, and a huge amount had to do with that, with what happened with the capacity shortfall we had last summer. We didn't have it, the region had it, and the cost of energy. When natural gas prices go up, the cost of energy goes up. And so what you're seeing here is most of the ratepayers in Illinois were paying somewhere in the range of 17 to 18 cents a kilowatt hour. It's back down to like 16 cents a kilowatt hour. Your average rate you charge your customer right now is less than 12 cents a kilowatt hour. And so that is and the customer charge you have, the customer meter fee and all those other things is very, very low compared to your competition. So with that, we continue to think you do a tremendous job of taking care of your customers. I'm going to have Mike Jennings, our Vice President of Member Services and Gas Services, going to talk a little bit about some of the mutual aid things we worked with you on.
Thank you, everybody.
Chatham's been part of our mutual aid program since 2007. And back at that time, we were told by FEMA that to get reimbursement, people have to sign contracts in advance because they didn't want people to have a storm event and then start working on contracts on who's going to do what. But if you look at it, the IMUA on the maps show the statewide information. We've got 38 electric towns and then a whole lot more gas towns and all that. And they all banded together and it's voluntary, but they can send crews to help each other. So if you have a problem, and whether it's a storm or Direcco, you need a 90-foot pole, you need a transformer, you can call our 24-hour operations center. We set up our operations center manned 24 hours after the 2006 event, where we looked at it and we were like, 2 tornadoes went down through Springfield and missed our headquarters by about 10 blocks, but the headquarters shook. And if that would have got wiped out, we would have been riding blind on the market. It would have cost millions of dollars. So our board said, we're going to build a bunker and we're going to man it 24 hours a day and we're going to put generators on there. So if you have a problem, no matter what, you can call us, you can email us, whatever. They're there 24 hours a day. Then we've got 4 people on staff that are devoted to taking the calls from there. So what it would be is Shane would call the operations center, they would log it, and they would all of a sudden, they could look at their loads and adjust the loads, but then they also record it so that when you do your FEMA applications, if you need a record, we're doing record keeping on behalf of the village. What we also do is that allows Shane to basically tell them what he needs. Then we go down the call list. The first guy will call Shane and say, what do you need? And he says, I need 2 bucket trucks, I need this and this. And then he doesn't have to worry about it. He can focus on the business of the town. And then there's 4 guys, if we need them, we'll be calling all these other towns. So we got lists of we got phone numbers, emails, list, alternates, different people. We got lists of what kind of voltage equipment they have in all the towns. And we just make it easier so that Shane's able to start restoring the power while we're running down crews for them. Once we locate them, we find out sometimes we got to call 6 people, but once we find a crew that's available and hasn't been hit themselves, we'll give them Shane's phone number and they'll call Shane and say, hey, Shane, this is Joe from Sullivan. I can be there in 45 minutes. I want to verify what you need. And he says, I need poles, I need transformers, and I put them on the trucks and then they go. And then we'll call Shane also and verify it, and then we'll report it to the call center. But then we'll say, Shane, do you need more? Because for your town, we had crews from 4 different towns that came. We had a whole lot of other towns. It was a rare event in that I'm 3rd on the call-out list, and I was called out. It didn't get to the 4th, but we had a lot of towns that needed mutual aid because it was a statewide event. Ameren and some of the investor-owned utilities, since they're diversified out the state, they can take crews from other parts of the state, but Chatham can't staff up for these events, and you can't have enough stuff on supplies, like poles and all that for these events. So basically through mutual aid, we're calling the other towns and they just share. And then they're reimbursed through, the town can apply to FEMA for reimbursement, but we're basically reimbursed at what they call the prevailing wage, which would be, just say Chatham charges one thing, Town X charges another. Whoever pays the highest is what you get it. So if Town X comes in, they're paid $18 an hour and you guys are paid $17, we pay them at $18 an hour. But if you're paid 18 and they're 17, you pay them at 18. And it's worked out really good. I mean, the towns don't gouge each other and they just talk things over. And sometimes they'll just say, hey, instead of you paying for a transformer, just order one and have it shipped to us. So it works out really good. We coordinate things. You don't have to overstaff. During this last event, we provided crews and equipment support Chatham, Bushnell, CWP, Farmer City, Marshall, and Greenup. During the whole event, we had no report of worker injuries, which was really good. The towns said their people came back and they appreciated what you guys did, but their crews also learned, hey, if we get hit by this event, we've been trained. We got towns that when Florida has hurricanes, they ship people down there and they're paid, but it's a training event also for them. And the crews go down there and they're like, hey, I've been through a hurricane, I can handle 2 city blocks, here. And then it bonds the people. I mean, they come out of there after they've been in Florida for 4 weeks, working night and day, they're bonded and the team works really high.
what you guys did, it's a huge compliment to your planning and experience and people, you guys had it all planned out in advance. When these storms hit, it can be really chaotic, but you guys, we interviewed you guys and we've gone to a couple of other towns. We haven't finished all our interviews. But you had 4 layers of communication in advance. That's really good because if a cell tower goes out, you got other options, you know, landlines, you've got, those star phones you said, or they had these like little walkie-talkies and they had emails. We were calling for mutual aid for some of the towns and their phones were out. And so we had to email them. And when time counts, you don't want to have somebody waiting 2 hours to get an email, that kind of stuff. So you guys had 4 layers in advance. It's really good. You got a lot of materials in hand, plus the relationships to get priority during shipments. So when we were calling towns getting 25 kVA transformers, Shane called some suppliers that he'd been working with, and instead of sending it to like North Carolina, they were able to call the North Carolina people and say, hey, we got an event, and routed them through here. So your connections that your crews had is really good. You had the contracts in place as required by FEMA, and you did it methodically. I mean, Shane called us and said, we need transformers. We were able to get them from Sullivan and Altamont. We were able to get crews from Batavia, Waterloo, Naperville, and Riverton. They brought poles and equipment. And then you guys arranged for tree trimmers. They had to go from far away because a lot of the tree trimmers were locked down. But you worked with another town so that you paid for their trip out and the other town paid for their trip back. So once you released the tree trimmers, they went to the other town. You guys saved a lot of money on that by working together. Communications plan, Utah did really well on the communications. People knew what's going on. We got a good kick out of your Sparky thing. We talked about kids wanting to be Sparky for Halloween, things like that. But
I tell you, we will call it now. There are extra treats in the dispatch if somebody actually shows up dressed as Sparky this Halloween. Vern, you've got this covered.
We gotta be home to know that. I could go at my home and pull up your website and find out what subdivisions were hit and estimated times, so people at their homes not looking at the clock going, is it 5 minutes or 5 days? They could go to a hotel, they could go to their relatives, different things like that. You did really well. Outage maps were great. And then in the aftermath, we came and talked to your people and they already pretty much sound like they'd already reviewed everything that they wanted to do. After the 2006 tornado, we reviewed it and we were like, we're building a bunker. You guys can look at what you need. I think you were well prepared going in, and it's really costly to make some of these improvements that would foolproof it. So there's a trade-off. I mean, it costs a lot to buy generators, build second feed, put things underground, but it's a trade-off for your city to look at and plan for the future. We're also doing a discussion after talking to your folks about the hardening grants. IMEA and IMUA are working with the Illinois Finance Authority on 4 plans for hardening grants. And as that moves forward, Pat's already talked to us about it, but our towns are hoping to get, not in the front of the line, but make sure they're not left out. And you've identifying critical systems. You guys talked to, it used to be in the old days, you had people on the lines you tag in to say medical, person that needs it for medical. They're everywhere now with the demographics, but you still need to know where they are and be able to talk to them. And sometimes the answer isn't, we can't get you up first. It's gonna be 4 days. You need to go somewhere and you need to be able to do that. And you guys have an alert system that's really good on that. And then the sump pumps, we lucked out. It was dry. I mean, if it had been a wet summer, we had this event, there have been a lot of basements wiped out. The debris removal strategy, that's a big thing. I mean, we've never seen this kind of debris fields and people pull into a central area and you're like, okay, what do we do with it? And that's something we're going to talk a little bit about is the IMUA. And then working with FEMA, you guys had the contracts in place and the documentation. FEMA is asking for more and more documentation. So we're going to be talking, we're going to do a mutual aid webinar for our members on October 10th. And we're going to go into very good detail on that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Kevin for a wrap up.
Thanks, Mike. Just in closing, again, we wanted to tell you thanks. First of all, I wanted to tell you thanks for our partnership for this long period of time. I wanted to personally tell you all thanks, and specifically Shane Hill for his leadership. I know Ryan Slidham and his as a foreman, very actively involved in that. Lots of other people going on with that. Dustin and his team was very actively involved in that. I know you got it, Trent and his group continue to work on emergency restoration and all those other things that go along with that. So a lot of people take that stuff for granted and say, I don't know why we do this stuff. Nothing ever happens until it really happens. And so again, I'm been a village resident here for 12 years, proud to be a village resident of Chatham. As I sent a text to Pat and the chairman and Shane immediately after, I could tell that this is a public art community because of the way everybody pulled together and got things done. And now for example, over here and the stuff over by the high school, it's gone. And so you think about that massive damage, it's all gone, and everybody takes it for granted that it'll never happen again. Until it happens again. So, not tonight. With that, we appreciate that. We're able to answer any questions you have. Mike had alluded a couple of times about, we've got our control center on the west side of town. We're just a little bit west of Old Jacksonville Road, or we're on Old Jacksonville Road, a little west of Cokie Mill. So if you know where the Jacksonville State Bank is, that Frank Lloyd Wright looking building just west of that, that's IMEA's headquarters. That's where a 24-hour operations center is. In fact, the chairman was there yesterday talking with some legislators about the items that are important to the municipal utilities. So if there's ever a time that you'd like to come visit our control center, take you through there, give you a chance to take a look at what's going on hour by hour on the power grid. Anything we can do to help, you know how to get a hold of us. Happy to help anytime you need. With that, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Mike, thank you. Any questions for Kevin or Mike before you guys don't have to hang out for the rest of the meeting? Exciting as they get.
That was the head.
That was the excitement.
That was the door being opened. Should you choose to walk through it?
See you guys.
So get home
Thank you.
for the hell.
You, Mike.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
I think they have that.
All right. Item 1 under old business is the ordinance amending the Village Green Program. Unless there's objection, we'll keep that tabled under old business. Hearing none, so it stays. Item 1 under new business is Resolution 4323 supporting grant application. A motion to bring this to the floor.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Nice made a motion, second by Trustee Charo. This is the CDBG grant application that we held the hearing for. Any discussion, any objection? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So passed. Item 2 is an ordinance approving a tree limb and branch collection services for October 2023. A motion to bring this to the floor.
Make that motion.
Trustee Trice made a motion, second. Second by Trustee Ferguson. This, with our RFP schedule, should be the last time we do a 1-month extension.
Yes.
Should be.
Big should.
Anyway, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Item 3 is an ordinance approving a variance for a height at 693 Homestead. Can I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Ferguson. The variance request is to increase an allowable accessory structure height from 17 feet to 25 feet 6 inches. Public hearing was noticed on August 3rd and held by the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals on August 21st. Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the variance to the zoning court, to the village board. Do we have any discussion?
So this comes up all the time, and I think we just do too many variances. We either need to change the ordinance or do something, because it was put in place for some reason, and then the reasons that were given to us, you don't need 25 feet to park an RV in a structure. So I just don't, I'm not for a variance, but that's me, and I understand if others are. I think we need to change the ordinance if we're going to keep allowing variances. We do this all the time. We've had 3 or 4 since I've been on the board.
We've been here for ages now.
I know. But change the ordinance.
So the best description I always got of individual zoning districts and the rules associated with them Molly from the Planning Commission describes it as, you have a large area that has like rules, but you can't write a rule to apply to every single circumstances. So the actual code has general applicability, and the variance process allows for the unique situations of the one-offs depending on what the need is, what the circumstance, the lot situation, the lot location, and all those, rather than having, R1 through R50 residential districts to try to keep track of. So that's always that. And so that's what the process is, that when something is put in for a building permit, it fits within the general description, it's approved, and it takes no action from the board. In any other instances where something's going to be done outside those generally applicable rules, it is noticed to the public through the newspaper, you probably had a large sign sitting in your front yard for a few weeks. So you provide that, and then the codes, it's in the municipal act, which puts you on the spot, which section provides it. But in the state codes, runs through the provisions on when you do this, then you put it in front of a committee that holds that public hearing and allows for petitioners and those in favor or against to provide their testimony in front of the zoning board, takes that evidence, runs through the items that you see on that finding the fact sheet as they apply, and then makes a recommendation to the board. The zoning board can't take final action. That's why you get a recommendation that the board has to take final action. And in this case, they have recommended the approval.
And I was appreciative of the Exhibit A. We haven't always got that in the past. It was very thorough, which.
It's gotten real thorough, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
As to other zoning districts, it is on our list of things that should we be considering, and how do you structure them? Likely in conjunction with the development of something that has some distinct characteristics from what already is when we would see most of that happen. On an area R1, I believe is what you have. You're probably not going to want to change an accessory height given the nature of most of the R1 in here, but there are places that are R1 that are further out in the country with sparse neighbors near them. So.
The process to change the ordinance or the rules, those go through the Planning Commission. They have a public hearing.
Sure.
They take input, they make a recommendation to you, and you guys take action on it. We were going to do that at the last meeting, but we didn't have any business other than that. So I think we're going to have a new plat for them to look at next month. So we'll probably have 2 or 3 of those on there.
Yeah, because that was my question was the amount of, the amount of property that some of these folks have within the Chatham Village limits, maybe. It's different, right? And I think there's opportunity where as families change, they get kids, they don't get kids, they retire, they don't retire. Chatham is an area where people could actually get more land or get less land. They could build bigger lot houses, pole barns, whatever they call it, or less, depending on what they want to do as they retire or not retire. And I would love, that's why I'm looking forward to, Pat, is when we have those conversations, because there's as a trustee, I love the fact that we have options. We have options, land options. I think we're actually have more land options as we grow. I just think we can't have this general variance conversation all the time. That's just me.
Well, and Lisa could probably answer this better than anybody, but the verb or the word variance is put in there to allow us to adapt to different situations and stuff. If you tried to write a simple zoning thing for height requirements, one size fits all, and all the different options that you could have, it would be pages.
Sure.
This way we pick a height, and if somebody wants to go higher than that, they have to get a variance. And by taking it through a zoning board and then taking it through the village board, you've done your best at allowing the public to have comment on it. So by saying that I don't ever want variances, that's not a good approach to how we need to be able to govern.
It's contrary to the intent on that rule, why.
Exactly.
why it was there.
Yeah,
And I'm not against variances.
Take your own, that's not what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
It strikes differently about what the intent on that process was.
yeah.
Further discussion about the variance in front of us, now that we've had a philosophical discussion about zoning districts and variances. Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
No.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
All right, so that variance is passed.
Yep.
If you're keeping score out there. May I have a motion to bring the consent agenda to the floor?
Make the motion.
Trustee Ferguson's made a motion, second by
I'll second.
Trustee Charo. Any discussion regarding the warrants or the minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Oh, and
Yeah.
for any of those interested,
You're
right
welcome.
on the first page there, it's one of those things that Kevin was talking about with reimbursement back to our mutual aid partners, that all bill right there. All right, is there any other public comment regarding village business? Hearing none, next village board meeting is 6 PM on October 10th. I will take a motion to move to closed session under 2C11 for pending or threatened litigation.
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Ferguson has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by trustee Tribe. Mr. Clerk, would you take a roll?
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
All right, let's quickly get back in the bunker.
Do we have to move?
No action
There'll
after.
be no action taken. There's no further action after the executive session.
I'm stopping the film.